An early defining moment for me was actually in high school. I was 15 years old. I was I was a sophomore at the time, and I was ushered into an AP Economics course. Now, quite honestly, I don't think I was supposed to be in that class. I was an average student. I wasn't a bad student, but an average one. And I don't know, maybe I was. I don't know. But I just remember being ushered into that class, and it was like, well, you're in this class now. And in that class, I think since day one, as the name implies, we were learning about economics from a global perspective. And in the classes that followed, we started to learn about investments, right? Stocks, bonds, CDs. But what really took my interest was those classes on global economics, those classes on stocks, because almost instantly, on a gut level, it made me feel small. And juxtaposed to that, I had this newfound ambition to be a part of what was going on in the larger world. I wanted to be more than just the four corners of my apartment or my Harlem neighborhood. I wanted to be a part of this global game, this global conversation. So by me feeling small, it presented a challenge. I want to be a part of that. I didn't just want to be nobody. I didn't want to just be a cog in a machine. I wanted to have a say in how the world moved. I just knew that. I didn't know how. I didn't know in which way. But that was the change, almost chemical, that happened within me. So I became laser focused. And again, learning about global economics, learning about stocks. I took an interest in stocks. Again, born and raised in Harlem, they didn't really talk about stocks growing up, not even in my home. And I say that respectfully. So I really had a keen ear for that. Anything I can learn. I went to the teacher after class to learn about it. His name was Mr. Kazmarek. And I would say, Mr. Kazmarek, tell me more about these stock things. And he would talk 15, 20 minutes after class. And one day I was inspired. I thought I knew enough about it. I said, how about we start a stock club? Now, again, this was a new high school. We were the first graduating class, so there were no clubs. I said, let's start a stock club, an investment club. And he said, I like that idea, but I don't know if we can do it. And I said, well, how about we go to, the principal and see if maybe we can have a conversation and just make something happen. So ultimately, I think he ended up going to the principal, and the principal was all for it, right? This was his first, I think, school that he oversaw as a principal, so he was up for anything. And we ultimately created a brokerage account, a real brokerage account. Mr. Kazmarek was the faculty advisor. And at a certain point, I presided over the club, and we traded real stocks. And that was a very transformative experience for me, because within weeks, I went from wanting to be a part of this global conversation and learn more about investments and different ways to build wealth to actually doing it. 15 years old, before the club even started, I went to 5 friends, and we were all doing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon at the time. And that was a craze, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon, playing video games. And this may have been it was about that time. Because I remember I had a huge deck of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. We used to duel it during lunch. And I said, hey, these were kids that was in the class. I said, that stock stuff we were talking about, the investment stuff? They said, yeah, we remember. And I said, how about we create a club around it, make some real money? And they looked at me puzzled, and I don't know what I said, but by the end of that conversation, each of them gave $50. I guess they went to ask their parents for it, because none of us was working, obviously. And we had a couple $100. We had some donations from us, obviously. We got some funding from the high school, which I'm sure made up the bulk of it, and Mr. Kazmarek, and it was on to the races. We started trading. I remember there were times when, some of us would do some research on our own time and come and present on the stock. I did that a bunch. As the president, my goal was to kind of create the direction for the club and our investments and our investment philosophy. And I remember giving presentations on that, and even more just like in between lunch. Right, lunch was like it was a big building with multiple schools. I would go from the 5th floor back down to our floor. I think it was the 3rd floor, and you'll see Mr. Kazmera, because he was a young guy too, right? We forget how young our teachers were, probably early 20s, and he's hunched over, looking at stocks himself. I don't know if he traded before or if he was learning with us, and he'd be doing research on it. He became obsessed with it like us. It really became this real family, this club. And I said, "What are you looking at?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm looking at Yahoo, and it's blown up, whatever the case may be." And we just sit there for the duration of lunch and just go over stocks and say, "Hey, we should maybe invest in this." And it was just a great time. And again, it just really opened me up to what was possible. It wasn't something I had to wait until I was an adult for. It was something that I can do now, right? With the support of others, and with collaboration, anything was possible. It taught me those values, and really that was a defining moment for me. Very appreciative of it. I'm glad to have had that opportunity.